It's just been amazing to read the steps. I'm going to go through the leadership program a little bit again, just to recap what we've all taken from that. And part of today will also be to help you be accountable to some of those things that we've all said. It's so easy, right? So exciting to be like, yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. We've all probably done that a million times on a number of different courses. So I'm really conscious that we want to follow through, and so part of today will help you do that. And then I'd love to know, like, what have you appreciated the most? If anyone, probably that's easier to share just by speaking it out. Most helpful thing for me has been like need to take care of myself. Yeah, you can't pour from an empty vessel. That's true. You know, sometimes one line or a few words from the whole week is all you need. Like something like that. If you can carry that with you, in a way, we're quite simple beings. We don't really want like 500 amazing things from a training. One thing that you actually hold on to, an action, is going to steer you probably much better than lists and lists of things that you never look back on again, you know, notes and notes. So we are going to whittle things down a little bit just to kind of one or two things that we can easily action and remember, to immediately move you all forward with this topic, which is the phone challenge. But of course, you can see my approach. I can't help it. It's got nothing to do with like little tips and tricks or bits of technology. You know, that they can be helpful, but really it's to do with, I think, our relationship with ourselves as parents, and then how we relate to our teens, and then we have some skin in the game, so to speak. We've got something we can work with to then have these conversations and guide our kids around phone usage. Did just want to say that from experience working with many different families, you know, some families have a very different um, background. You know, some families, kids haven't had devices for a long time, so there is a whole spread. You know, if our kids have had devices from a young age, it can seem inconceivable the way other families might be doing it. And yeah, so I mean, I think it's just great to have a range. We're definitely not here to agree. I think we can probably all agree that the education system trying to be like a one size fits all model is crazy. Very much the same with the phone challenge. We're not trying to find some like one way for all of us. My invitation to all of you is to take from this what you think is applicable and appropriate for your family and for your style and for your backgrounds and for you know, it comes down to like the understanding you have with your children, the conversations you've had over the years. For me, I know I'm prepping my kids, 10-year-old and 11-year-old, with lots of conversation pieces just spontaneously around technology, because they don't have phones yet. They don't even really have good or reliable iPads or anything. You know, we haven't really tooled up with the technology, and so they use bits and bobs here and there. But I'm prepping them, I'm priming them to have a greater awareness around going into that age and stage where they probably will have, almost certainly, that, well, they will have phones eventually. So I know many families doing it in all sorts of different ways, and there is no right way. It's not like, hey, who can get their kids to kind of use the least technology? That's not the right approach either. So it's not any sort of competition, and comparison probably isn't very helpful. Like we just want to come here and like borrow what we can from what we learn from each other and see what's appropriate for us. And it's also not another stick to beat ourselves with if it's just like, whoa, they're like that family, they're all getting nines. We're hoping for fours and fives, you know, it's that kind of thing with GCSEs or with phone usage. It just we just yeah, don't want to get into it kind of like that. The only solution is that our kids know how to navigate that and develop some autonomy, some self regulation there, that they're clear on kind of what they want and why, including getting their schoolwork done rather than being just siphoned off by YouTube into football highlights. If you're me, you know, that's what's sitting there waiting for me. You know, so but whatever, it can be whatever your thing is, it's going to be there for you on YouTube rather than kind of quadratic equations videos that I might be recommending them. So we have no real other choice other than to empower their own good decision making, to go this much harder route of trust and, yeah, discussions, making agreements, Yeah, everything from the leadership program kind of speaks to that approach, because that is the only approach that there can be no controlling this, which I think is great. Because like for me, phones aside, I don't believe in the controlling model of parenting anyway. Like, and I don't believe in that model of educating. So those kind of superficial wins aren't the ones I'm shooting for in any case. So yeah, it's to do with buy-in. So again, dog walking is like a classic. It's a classic, but beef between parents and children, that the parents all want to take the whole family dog walking and none of the kids want to go. So I
Yeah.
have to be really careful, even with that. Like, we are dog owners. We've got 2 dogs. My son has never wanted to go for a dog walk once. My daughter does all the dog walking. So we've just gone with that, to be totally honest. I know in my background, I would have been forced to walk. We were forced to walk. And I don't know, I'm a walker now, but I don't know how,
Yeah.
because I should have been put right off it by my own childhood. But yeah, my son, we've just let him be. We've let him be with that. We haven't forced him to go dog walking. So I would also just be careful
Yeah.
about
What
input.
you make do. Yeah.
Think about it together. What would we all like to do? Yeah, if there's any way you can draw in their participation around the design.
Yeah.
And it can also be just through lockdown, we ended up doing something called Family Quiet Time. It was a bit of a kind of like nauseating sounding title, but we called it Family Quiet Time. Do you remember, Sam? And we had like, we would all just do our own thing. It was like everyone would have a book, or some would be drawing, we'd have music on, or I can't remember. We'd just be in the room kind of together. We had one big main room where we were living, and we just hung out together, just like anyone can do what they like, just quietly. We don't talk to each other. We're just kind of, and this completely depends. For some kids, neurodivergent or whatever, this could be just a nightmare. But just whatever. If take what you can. But that kind
Mm.
of way of atmospherically just being together, and all actively choosing to just not be on screens for 1 hour. It's like a pretty basic invitation in some ways to just go, like, we can't just have these things. Like, how many hours are there in the week? I don't know. But without getting into any sort of lecturing about it, simple
Mm.
invitation like that, and to make it as fun for them as possible. And the ideal would be obviously that you start with an hour, and then everyone kind of after a year or something kind of goes, like, it starts to ripple out into the rest of life. Once you do that 1 hour a week, maybe you all learn something about that time together. And those are some of the favorite times you might share. But again, be so patient about this, because it really might not be like a heaven realm straight away. Might take a bit of teething to get into it. Really doesn't matter. Wow. The main thing is to open up all those other activities, and
Mm.
to also
Yeah.
train up some of the discipline, self-discipline, around that, the intentionality around it. I mean, again, I'm going to share a bit later on about just many of the students I'm working with. It was so nice to review the students I'm working with now. I could share about 10 of them and the steps that they are deciding to take for themselves around their own screen usage. So that's how it is in my world. It's not me telling them what to do or their parents telling them what to do. It's me chewing over that with them. What do they want? And all of them have got an opinion about it. All of them have got something that they would prefer to do to help themselves in their own lifestyles. So, that's where I'm at. That's where I want all of our kids to be at. It's in that space where they're recognizing, with no one telling them what to do. That's not how I operate. So they get to kind of trust me in that space. And they're recognizing what it is that they actually want. Like, when do they want to get off their phone and go to sleep? Like, how much sleep do they want each night? All the sort of things that the parents also want. But it's very
Mm.
different when it's a conversation between a coach and a teen, where we've created that relationship. So I'm just going to present, walk through now in the context of what we've spoken about. Some of the slides I actually shared also at the beginning of the week. And I'm going to share a whole load of different kind of testimonials and case studies, some of them videos, some of them anecdotal insights from, like I said, 10 or so teens and a few families and what they've decided to do. But again, it's for each family. We've covered some of that ground already as a group anyway. And then we're going to review some of, like, what we know doesn't work, and some of what we've said we think is going to work through the leadership model, and get into some reflections around how we can make sure that we actually follow through with what we what we know could be really helpful to support this whole topic. So great. Let me just screen share. Always have a slight moment of trepidation that I'm going to forget how to do this. One sec. Okay, yeah, cool. Because this is really, when we're looking for what is going to work, this is the culmination of 20 years of my experience of wanting to do this. So yeah, some of you would have seen this on day one, but it might look and feel a bit differently today. All of these slides, I think, will. Um, uh, these are the 5 flames of the Young Fire Academy model. So I'm sharing this to introduce you to kind of how we work, but also to share the ethos around what I feel has been, these 5 elements have basically been things I've discovered or things that I've put together, ways in which I feel like we've innovated as an organization to really get to the roots of, yeah, empowering teenagers to have greater purpose. The next slide will show you the model, which is to do with purpose and self-direction and motivation and responsibility. So, parent support for one thing. I mean, again, put in the chat if you've had any parent support to date. Most people haven't, but if you have, I'd love to know also what trainings you've done and what's been useful. So yeah, if you wanted to share them, that'd be great. But yeah, parent support, we have a weekly parent call. I'm in very close contact with all the parents I work with, and all of my programs are 6 months or something in length. So we really 6 months plus. So we really get to know each other. And all questions can be asked, just like we've experienced this week. There's a forum. There's always a group of around this kind of number of parents on each Wednesday night call. And I'm working with all of their teens as well. So, coming from a tutoring background, I knew I had to kind of get into like, well, what's going on back home? How can I help the parents to help themselves to get the results we all want, rather than just be employed as a tutor to try and do that in isolation? So the parent support's been a huge step forward in my own professional development, and it's been of massive benefit. Like sometimes people come into the program and they think that I'm just going to do maths and English with their teen, or I'm going to coach and do maths and English with their teen, or just coach their teen, and they come out the other end of the program going, wow, I thought that all the change was going to be with my kid, but actually the biggest change was with me. So I love to hear that. And yeah, just this is such a crucial part of kind of how I get the results I kind of get. And I presume you all kind of know about some of them from following me on Facebook, but I'll share a few more of them before the end of today. Yeah, specialist tuition, that's been my background. So English and maths tuition. So it's kind of using maths and English, also finding the greater purpose in maths and English so that there's less of a draw for the phones. To me, you kind of have to bring school to life, otherwise you're really going to struggle as a young person, because you're in school 8 hours a day or however many hours a day. That's your job, that's your kind of raison d'etre, really, whether you like it or not. And so being able to coach people with maths and English where they can enjoy those subjects more, give those subjects more time, start to get on with their teachers better, start to align better with the whole offer, that really helps with something like phones as well. There's a greater purpose than just all I want to do is get on my phone and get away from my studies and get away from all the other things that are being kind of foisted on me or forced on me. So the tuition has that touch brought in by just my natural way of evolving my work with young people. And that comes from the top. This top piece, building that relationship, that's it. That's the whole thing. The whole thing of what I do. And what I would recommend to all of you, one of you mentioned like finding other mentors for your kids. It doesn't have to be me, of course, but it can be. And mentorship and coaching is just so profoundly impactful to help young people find their feet with this kind of challenge. Having a phone at all is a huge challenge for a young person. It drops into their life at exactly the stage when they want to be most connected to their peer group. It's so unbelievably programmed for all of us to be very hard to let alone. So having that, building that relationship with young people is just a way of getting through to them. The tools I've given you through the leadership framework are really also just ways of doing that, ways to reach your teen, ways to start that conversation where you'll actually be heard. And so I've become very adept. I avoid any words like expert, or I try to anyway, but that's been my main focus, is how to build relationships with teenagers. And I know from there, anything and everything is possible. So then the coaching also, I've only really been coaching for about 5 years or maybe 7 years. The concept of coaching only arrived in my life around that time. And it's my summary of it is that it's more to do with asking than telling. You know, it's just asking young people the right questions, asking them for a start. What do they want to do? What do they think? Like how are they with their phone? All the questions I've suggested to you and that you've written in your feedback from yesterday, from the day before yesterday, just asking them over a period of 6 months, you know, how's it going? I've got 5 or 6 year 11 students this year, and all of them, phones is like a top topic for them because they've got revision to do. They're in it, they're in it to win it. All of them are engaged, whether they're scrabbling for fours and fives or going for sevens, eights, nines. Doesn't really matter. They're all aware of the fact that their phones are not the thing for them right now. They can be on them, they want to be on them, of course, but they need some structure and discipline there. And that's coming from them. So I'm just asking the questions, how's it going? What can we do this week? Like how, you know, what else can we put in place? And they just bring it all to me. I want to get to bed earlier. I want to get off my phone earlier. I'm going to start giving my phone to my parents between this hour and that hour just so that I don't even have it. That's what works for me. You know, so those kind of solutions are so much more powerful than any of us kind of shouting into the wind about what we want our kids to be doing. So the coaching has been epic for me and for the families that I've been working with. And then the result, the ultimate aim is authentic self-direction. You know, like we were saying about what we wanted to do, you know, our kids have all of that in them also, of like, you know, I want to like work out more, or I want to get a better grade in this subject or that subject, or I want to start, I don't know, skateboarding more regularly or something. So self-direction doesn't matter if it's maths or English or if it's skateboarding and whatever, photography, doesn't really matter. We just want our kids, and I want all the kids I work with to start really taking responsibility for their own lives in that way, leading their own lives, knowing what their ambitions are, what they're going for, what nourishes them, what they want, rather than just being very vague about that and being picked off by their phone at every opportunity. You know, as we all know, the phone is forever there for us. If we don't know what to do, we've always got the phone. And so one really key thing is to know what we want to do and to see how that plays out week to week. So I wanted to just refresh that slide. And yeah, this one is, again, some of you have seen this, some of you might not have done, but this is just how you've come to kind of find me and the next steps here. You know, we post a lot on Facebook. I'll be brief through this because I've done this already before, but Facebook content, and we have an amazing Facebook group. Please post that's a free Facebook group. Any questions that you have, that's a great place to post specialist questions, or just to get, you know, 1,000 odd parents are there to get their opinions on anything you're struggling with. I'm also there, so tag me in that if you're in that group and you want to ask a question. And then yeah, I do a lot of free trainings. I mean, in a way, for me, it's just super. I speak with parents all day, every day. And the point of the free training is really to kind of get to know each other in some ways, and for me to do some easy market research. So I get a lot of value out of hearing where you're all at, what you're struggling with, and I can take that into all of my training and coaching from here on in. So yeah, we're in a free training here. I've offered you, probably not very clearly, a call for next week. I would love to meet with all of you for a call next week. Could even be later on today. So Sam, if you put that link for the bow tie call in the chat, that's a half-hour call where we can, I mean, for one thing, just getting to know you this week. I want to know, I'd like that to be kind of an accountability call as well. That'd be part of the accountability to go, okay, how's your week been since we had this, like, yeah, I'm going to do all this and that. I want to know how that's actually gone. It's also, of course, a stepping stone to opening up, like, should we work together? Should I meet your team? Is there something that we could do together that would be really powerful? Is now actually the time for you to take on some support of the kind that we can offer, however that looks? So that the bow tie call is a stepping stone to just asking all those questions. It's not a sales call. There's no tie-in. But you know, that's an option to then just go, okay, like do we actually want to go for the coaching? So the next step is to have some coaching. It can look in all kinds of different ways. That the range of investment, just to be open and honest about it, as I always am, is between 500 and 1,500 pounds a month, 6 months or longer. Yeah, is the general gist. And the coaching can be group coaching, one-to-one coaching, a mixture of the two. There's a parent element, teen element, there's academic elements, non-academic elements, and also some of the kids I work with are university age. You know, some of them are 11. Like mostly it's kind of 14 to 16-year olds, but there is quite a stretch there with certainly with the one-to-one. So also, final thing to say about this is that that's for anyone that you want to introduce to me. If you want to refer me, Facebook is kind of the place. There's so much free value, as I'm sure you all know. Please do that. Invite people to the group. Any parents that you hear of who you feel could do with this input, invite them to that free Facebook group or to contact me on Facebook. If you did want to consolidate your takeaways and share about the value of this week, yeah, just on Facebook, that would be awesome. You know, that's super empowering for you. That does really seal the deal for some of your accountability as well, to share that with your network. And I would obviously be delighted if you wanted to just say, you know, it's been a free week. I've been here all week, just you know, rooting for you, going for it with you. So yeah, if you wanted to do that, I just wanted to invite that. Yeah, in case that feels yeah, fun to do. Great, and then this is the program. So this slide, if you haven't seen it already, it's really the summary of what I do with teens and what I do with parents. And this is so appropriate for the phone challenge. I'm delighted that it stands up to be really like purpose right in the middle. The challenge with phones in general is like trying to find like a higher purpose, a greater purpose, or just a more rewarding purpose for any of us, moment to moment. Is the phone delivering that? Or is there something else really that, if we're honest with ourselves, we should be doing that would move us forward in life, bring us more ultimate satisfaction, more fulfillment? And young people are in that just as much as we are. So finding purpose, creating, like I mentioned, self-direction, helping them find self-direction, being really intentional about how they want to live, like what they do actually want, not just being in this kind of phone soup the whole time. What do they actually, what's been the most satisfying thing they've done all week? It's very unlikely to be 3 hours on the couch with the phone. So they know that, and I know that, you know. So the other things that stand out, they're like, well, yeah, I would actually like to get down to the skate park more often, or whatever it might be. Motivation. Energy breeds more energy. You know, energy is everything and everything is energy. So when we get stuck into, when we get excited about things, we start to reverse like the downward spiral that can easily be happening in school, that kind of negative energy or lack of energy, lack of participation, lack of openness to doing any of it, kind of cutting all the corners. None of that gives you, brings you energy or motivation or joy. So being in the system like that was probably one of the initial reasons why I got into tutoring and coaching in the first place. I couldn't bear to see young people living like that, where they're just drifting along at school with absolutely zero joy or interest or openness to it. So turning around that downward spiral is just as easy as creating it. Actually, it takes just a few little steps, a few a few new openings in relationships or in mindset or attitude. And so motivation really is, yeah, it's another one of the three goals from the program. And yeah, it's amazing to see the upward spiral once suddenly, like, you know, you get, and it's not as simple as just getting a good report back, but just, yeah, just doing well. I mean, like doing well feels good. So like actually, after a while, once a child has kind of pushed against it, kicked against it enough, and I've been with them for long enough to just be in that with them, wow, it's a no-brainer to start actually putting a bit more time in, giving a bit more love and attention to it, immersing themselves more in genuinely fulfilling and productive activities, and just seeing then where the phone fits in there. I'm not saying like the phone isn't great for some of the time, and I don't demonize it at all with the teens. Neither do I demonize the gaming. But yeah, and then yeah, taking responsibility. This all comes from the coaching. It's just bouncing the responsibility right onto them. It's their life. It's their life at this point. all of your kids are old enough really where the responsibility's already mostly with them. And so we just want to know, like, what are they going to make of it? Start to hand that over, start to pass that over more and more and more to them, rather than just being the one that manages that for them and keeps them kind of small in that kind of way. So using your own discernment at the right time, just handing over responsibility. And yeah, through these three vehicles, one of the actions I also thought for this week or this weekend for you would be just to have some fun. In case you haven't, have some fun with your kid. Think of something fun, like a fun thing to do. That's one of my absolute go-tos for empowering greater academic motivation in young people. So, it doesn't come instantly, but I want parents to be having fun with their kids, not just banging on about how much work they should be doing. So that's really never going to help. So we've got to still have a fun relationship with them, even if they're right in year 11 now and they're driving us crazy, not doing any revision. Still, I'm recommending to my clients, like, just surprise her, take her out for like a dinner, go out bowling or something, tell her to just sack off the revision for tonight. And then you watch her come back to her revision stronger the next day. It's obvious, right? I think it's obvious. And it might not be linear like that. It might not immediately deliver a result, but the atmosphere of a parent who's like, okay, fun is just as important as my speaking up for how much she or he should be doing academically, then great. There's a lot more balance there. Bringing in trust and lots of joy. So these three things are the three things that I feel they don't get enough of at school, and often they don't get enough of it at home either, if we're honest with ourselves. So giving them lots of choice, asking them, what do they think? What do they think we should do? What do you think we should do for our hour where we don't have the screens? Like, where the phones are all in a box. What should we do? I don't know. Open it up as a parent. Like, what should we do? This is novel, isn't it? Like, all the phones are in a shoebox for an hour, and we're just play. It's like a game, because it's almost bound to be at least interesting for them. That so yeah. Anyway, all right. Let me not get too bogged down in this. Okay, I wanted to play you. This is what I was meant to play you on day one, I think, with some of these videos. Yeah, I want you to know that I'm not in some ways just kind of messing around with theories here, that there's a lot of practical experience that has fired me up for all of this. It's not theoretical. It's very much the work I do with families day to day. And yeah, I mean, I could name probably 10, 15, 20 families who've been literally like muses to me. I mean, not just, I mean, I've worked with hundreds, maybe thousands of families probably by now, with the tutoring included. But, Jane was literally like, that's when it's best. When it's best is when we really have just complete love and trust and respect for each other and openness to how we work together. Jane was one of them. She's a great friend yeah, now, and I've worked now with both of her kids. Actually, I'm working with one at the moment, and worked with her younger son, who I think she refers to in this video, a while back. But yeah, she basically reached out to me for that influence piece. They didn't know what to do. She speaks to it very well in the video, so I think I'll just play the video and then we can add anything more if we need to.
We came to Henry because Raf had just was just having such a difficult time. The family dynamic was very difficult. It is much, much better now. But when we met Henry, thank God, Raf was really struggling at school and was actually, we didn't even realise how bad it was. And he just got really, really behind, and we just at a kind of point where we just didn't know what to do. He was really unhappy, he was lying, we just couldn't reach him at all. And then gradually with Henry, he sort of returned. He just seems like he's grown up, and he's kind of returned to me, and it's just, I just can't tell you how it's so nice to see him back. And I really do feel I can trust him. Like, I remember when you were saying right in the beginning, just got to trust him. I was like, what? And I have done that, and I can now quite easily do that. And he just seems really happy, and he's positive again. It's just such a relief.
Yeah, always I've seen that video hundreds of times now from trainings like this, but every single time I watch it, and this one as well, I'm always more or less just moved to tears to listen to it again. And yeah, that it's really connected, deep, profound work that I do. I've never said that before, but I just want to kind of own that right now, that the work I do has evolved into a space where those kind of results come out of it, that he's come back to her. They just couldn't reach him. I mean, I think that's so common actually for parents of teens, that we can feel a bit like our teens aren't reachable by us as parents. And that might be just inevitable and natural and developmental. In some ways, we have to suffer that kind of grief and just deal with that's how it is. But from the back of that share, I would say that having someone like me come in really can change the relationship of that teen to all of the other adults in their world, actually, if I'm really honest. It's not always the case, but can really help the parent relationship, obviously, because I'm working with the parents as well. But then it also shifts their relationship with the teachers. They start to see the adult world as a lot less of a threat, through the way I am, through the way I work with them, and I just am putting that out there, that I build a relationship that I really feel empowers a lot of other relationships that might be sticky for them at this age and stage. So yeah, Terry also has something to share about it. Yeah, what to say about Terry? I mean, again, it was all of these parents were in the same kind of position as maybe some of you are, where they're just thinking like, okay, wow, I don't know what the resistance might be. It's a lot of money, or my teen won't want to do it, or any of the. I've been through all of that stuff with everybody. So like the level of investment, the resistance of a teenager, like none of this should put you off. At least booking the call to speak with me for half an hour about it next week. I trust Sam has put that. Sam, you've got that in the chat. Yeah, so you could do that now. Just put, whilst I'm speaking, book that in. Yeah, Terry. Lovely Irish Terry, you'll hear in her accent. Yeah, just so many ways in which, again, she was in this really difficult time with her son. Her and her husband both were. It was affecting the whole family. So, it was more than just academic stuff. We did a bit of maths as well together, Adam and I. And yeah, he was yeah, they weren't really just looking for a tutor, not looking for a therapist. They wanted something in the middle. And in some ways, I'm in that sort of in between space. I feel like it's a very mainstream offer. I'm not offering anything that would in the line of therapy or anything. And also, I want to do a lot more than just tutoring. So Terry and Adam and her husband also, who I'd never met, but Terry used to share like what an impact kind of some of the changes of trusting more, leaving his son alone and just retiring was a word that I was using a lot at that point, really resonated for him. And so yeah, it's a whole family kind of immersion basically. But yeah, here's Terry. Let's see if I can get her going. Yeah.
And Henry, thank you. What a gift for a child to be able to have somebody who just sees the absolute best in them and be like one of their biggest fans and supporters. You've done that for him. I know as parents you say like that's our role, but it gets complicated. But for you to have done that for him and just shine a light for him on everything that's good for him, like what a gift. It's phenomenal. So I thank you greatly for the role that you've played. Yeah, I really mean that now. Thank you. You have a very special, authentic goodness about you, Henry, and keep that. That's invaluable. You can't put a price on that.
I've got nothing more to say about that. I think Terry's kind of said it all, but it's important to me in some ways in my work to not be shy of just how deep it goes and how much I have to kind of trust myself as well to be in relationship with young people like that and to build those relationships with them and with their parents. It's not It's not in any way a kind of cold financial transaction. I mean, the tutoring days were numbered because of that. I couldn't bear to just be paid to do a role that I didn't feel completely like I could do exactly what I thought was needed in it. So I wanted to now just share very practically, before I open up the floor, I'd love us to reflect a bit more and to hear from you, but I wanted to share about specific case studies, people, students that I'm working with right now and learned a lot from, and who I think could really help you. So in the program, with the current relationships I have going, can't wait to have case study testimonial videos from their parents as well. It's been an incredible year this year, but in no particular order, I'm just going to go into like what some of my students are doing, what they've resolved to do for themselves, what they've shared also in the groups to each other. Like that's one other thing, the group trainings, goodness me, you couldn't ask for a more powerful influence on young people than each other, right? So I have groups, group maths, group English, group coaching calls, and they share a lot of stuff with each other around what they're doing, what's working for them, what's going well, what's supporting them to do what they want to do. So yeah, one of them, just to go straight into that, I can see she's on the list. One of them, in their house, they were doing, I think I shared about her a little bit at the beginning of the week, 5:30 to 7 p.m. The family just had no phones. None of them had any phones. 5:30 to 7. They've got three kids. Two of them one's doing A levels, one's doing GCSEs, and so they all just agreed so that they can come back from school and be productive, get at least an hour and a half of their revision done, and also for the parents, they joined in. They were the shoebox family, and yeah, they did this 5:30 to 7 p.m. Monday to Friday family kind of amnesty, if that's the right word, on with phones. And she then shared about it in the group call. And so then one of the other girls went back and went, you know, Mum, I think what I'd like to do is come back from school and give you my phone from like 5 to 6 p.m. You know, so that's the kind of action I'm looking for, is when a teen really goes, okay, I can see that's a wise move. That's what I want. And the teens start to actually lead on it, start to use you as parents to be their accountability partners. You know, I'm always waving this phone in front of my teens and going, wow, if someone could take this off me at 9 p.m. every night, I'd be delighted. I'd probably pay them for that. You know, so trying to turn around how annoying parents can be by doing that, and have teens to like actually take up that support if they want it. So that was amazing to have that shared on a group call, and to hear from to hear the shock from the other mum, and just that is virally then kind of being communicated between the teens was awesome. So I will say that they then decided to do from 5:30 to 8:30, and they didn't really seal the teens' agreement. And so then that really backfired on them. The parents were then like, hey, well, we've done 5:30 to 7. Let's crank this up a bit. Let's do 3 hours. Didn't work. You know, we've got to be really careful not to just get carried away, run ahead with something when our teens haven't really gone for it or gone in for it or bought into it. So, you know, it's fine. They've just gone back to it, but we need the buy-in. We need the teens to be, we can't just make this happen and bring in more rules and injunctions in our household. I don't think, not without a lot of difficulty. Yeah, university students just like deleting a game that he plays. He's banned himself from YouTube. You know, he's uni age, but he's like, wow, Henry, I've struggled with YouTube since I was 14 or 13. You know, I've actually never told anyone that. He's had lots of therapy. He's never told or identified for himself that YouTube is a real problem. YouTube's been a real problem for him. So these kinds of things are what come out of the open coaching conversations. Tenzin is GCSE age, giving his phone to his mum so he can revise. Yeah, you know, he started giving his phone to his mum, and now he knows he can just put it outside his room. Like he's got the taste for kind of what that gives him to get ready for his exam. So he knows he wants that focused time. He knows with his phone it's hopeless. And so he started giving it to his mum. Now he doesn't even really use his mum anymore. If she's there, great, but otherwise he just puts it downstairs or in the corridor. Yeah, other students who've, I mean, this is just to give you some hope as well. Other students have gone off on holiday for a couple of weeks and come back and deleted TikTok. You know, it's just interesting to hear that from a girl who's yeah, also told me the benefits of TikTok for her. She watches a lot of food talk. I don't know if you've heard of food talk, but it's pretty obvious what it is. It's just a lot of foodie stuff, chefing. She loves to learn from it. So again, there we go. Exactly what you want them to be doing is right there with all the stuff you don't want them to be doing. TikTok, full of benefit, full of like poisonous, just like total waste of time, garbage as well. So it's all, in the end, it's going to come down to self-leadership. We have nowhere else to go with our teens other than them finding a way for themselves. We're not going to be able to manage a better situation as parents. Yeah, Sophia is also GCSE. She uses her parents also in that way, gives the phone to her. She likes to do that, give it to them, and she just knows it's out of her hands. So much easier. It makes me think of the smoking ban as well, that in some ways when something's not available to us, we just it's not a problem anymore in some ways. So like with the phone, I think it is really good when it's just not available. We know that in those hours or at this time, it's not negotiable. It's not even in the room. It's not mum's gone out with it or something. I don't know, whatever, it's gone. Then yeah, we can kind of get on with the rest of our lives in some ways. So yeah, that's she uses her parents in that way. She decided, you know, I'm going to check my message. We went through it on the call. I'm going to check my messages on the way home. I'm going to ask my parents, bless her. She was like, I'm going to ask my parents if that's okay whilst they drive me home. Can I check my messages? You know, she's like, I'll speak with them for 10 minutes or something about their day. And she's very sweet about, wants to check in with her parents, knows that it's a bit rude to be picked up and just get on her phone. But she wants to check her messages in the car on the way home because she doesn't want to get into that habit back home. She doesn't want to get home and then get on her phone, lie in her bed. She's also very studious. She's actually year 10, but super studious in a very pressurizing school in London. But yeah, interesting to hear her self-leadership there, what she thinks is going to work for her and how she's structured that. Yeah, other students, Dylan's just about bedtimes. You know, he's telling me, he's like, okay, this week, Henry, I wanna be asleep or be in bed by 10. And that means getting off my phone by 9:30. These are his ideas, not mine. It's just totally up to, he's like, I want to get off my phone. That's what he's doing this week. Strict accountability, like I'm his buddy, but it's really self-accountability. Get off his phone by 9:30 p.m. And I'll hear from them. Some of them I hear from them all through the week, every day, and some of them I'll just hear the next week. How did it go? Some of them told me that on Instagram there's some brilliant videos that they've seen on Instagram of people just they pitch this thing that's just like clickbait, and then in the like 10 seconds or 20 seconds in, they just go, just get off, just stop scrolling, just shut this thing down, get on with your life. You know, so they're creating video content to lure in teenagers and then telling them to like get a life in a fun way, in a way that the teens have really gone for. So, you know, the world is changing. We're trying to self-educate in this way. Everyone knows it's a problem, and I just love to hear from teens what's working for them. Flora is an app. I don't know if any of you know. Let me know if give us a nod if you've ever heard of Flora. Again, that's come from the teens, not from the parents, but it's an accountability app. So they use it. You grow a tree, you grow a digital tree, and it grows and grows and grows so long as you don't pick up your phone. So I think you set like a timer. So if you want to do an hour's revision or something, over that you just grow the most abundant tree. And the teens are really competitive about it, like with their siblings, with each other. So they have kind of study buddies who are also on Flora, and you can see like who's grown the most epic tree by the end of whatever, a day, a week. So it again, I've not used it, but they all love it. And I've had 3 completely independent teens tell me this last couple of years that they and their friends are really loving Flora. So wow, that's I don't know how you introduce that to them as parents, because as soon as you make any suggestions, they might not want to do it. But I'm just putting that out there, that Flora exists and is an interesting app worth looking at. If there's a way of you introducing that to them skillfully, then great. Yeah, what else to say? We've already covered the fact that the best resources, I mean, it's a real problem, like that we're trying to get our kids off screens to some degree, and all of their schoolwork is on there. You know, the school, since COVID especially, you know, all of the schools worksheets and resources and the way that they're tracking the school's work, whatever, it's all digital. So there's just no escaping the bigger question, which is that our kids have to know how to navigate this for themselves. We can't, I mean, we never knew, even before this all happened, we never knew whether they were revising or not. I was always fascinated by that. You could never really tell, like, you can't tell what a kid's doing in front of their books. Like you just can't. So if you've got that tendency or an impulse to control, you just can't. And I love that. I love that basically the kids, like my job is to get the I keep saying kid, I should say something else, like the young adults head in the game, so they really know like why they've got the books open and what they're doing that for, and they're really in it for themselves. If they're not, there's actually nothing going on. There's nothing going on when they're in their room with their books open, trying to prove to you that they're studying, not on their phones. You know, there's just countless ways around it. So the only solution that I can see is for them to be self-motivated, to actually want it, to know why they're doing it, to get clear on that, which is the whole purpose of the program. But I'm just putting it out there to you as parents that there's no other way around it. We have to let them find their own motivation, help them find their own drive and their own self-discipline, self-trust, that they know they're not going to just spend another whole night on their phone when they've got a test tomorrow or something else more important that they want to do. There's no other way. So yeah, so purpose, self-direction, motivation, responsibility, fun, trust, and choice. Yeah, okay, this is the time when I wanted to briefly recap, and then I'll open up for just some open shares questions. We can wrap up the week, but I wanted to recap what doesn't work according to you. And I loved these points, leaving them to it with phones, that we need some sort of say. We can't just give kids phones and go, hey, you know, I trust you, you'll work it out. I don't think so. Like a lot of other parents say you should. A lot of other parents in my Facebook group have just responded to a question this week to say, yeah, we've got no boundaries at all. So that's a brave route to go. It's not the route I'm going to be going with my kids, I don't think. So I feel like with technology, it's slightly different to most of the other approaches I'd make as a coach and as a parent. Punishment. Someone said, yeah, punishment doesn't work. Banning the phones, turning off the Wi-Fi at night. Like usually we get so much pushback. The relationship just gets increasingly poisoned. So that we've probably all had experience of that. Even if you are shutting the Wi-Fi off at night, and there are good reasons for doing that, perhaps for kind of health generally, not to have the Wi-Fi on, that can work really well. So it's just the aggressive, kind of domineering parenting style of like ripping the cord out kind of thing, or like snatching the phone off their hands. Like, wow, parents have fed back to me, that is the worst thing they've ever. It just repeatedly brings up the absolute worst in everybody. So for a long time now, I've looked at, yeah, just conflict in the home in that sort of way. Just that's what I want to resolve, harmonize relationships so that I can have students that are motivated and teens that are also taking responsibility for their own lives, away from just clashing with their parents, fighting with their parents, having that decision making so interfered with and confused by rebellion. So yeah, that's been a huge part of the work I've done for a long time. Reward, also blackmail. One of you put in blackmail, so that's kind of like rewarding in some ways, trying to yeah, look, they will just, I think they'll just take us all away, teens, with this particular thing, phones or technology usage, those kind of sneaky attempts of ours, they will fight us, and rightly so. There's a far greater empowerment for everybody waiting for us if we take a braver route, a longer term route, a more sensitive and responsive and kind route for ourselves and for them. It is going to take time and patience, though, really big time. So yeah, lecturing, citing academic studies. I mean, it sounds funny, but of course, that also can work. It can work to like drop in educational tools. One of you said you're going to watch The Social Dilemma with your teen. That's great. You know, maybe watch it first and see if and of course, it's got to be with the teens' acceptance and openness and interest. Otherwise, it is going to backfire. But that can provoke, with the right context, a lot of great discussion. Wow, we really are all in this together with phones, and they've got us. Like the social dilemma, I like it. I like the pitch. It's really hardcore what they're saying, but I think it's well worth listening to. So yeah. And then empathizing. Someone also put in empathizing, just turning, like in some ways, if we'd like, oh, I know exactly how it is for you. Like I really got that as well. Sometimes, this is why parenting is so baffling. You're like, what? That empathizing? That doesn't work. But I really understand that. I think that was you, Sally. Yeah. Just if you say, oh, I totally understand, it's just the same for me. And sometimes that also, if our teen just doesn't want to hear that, like, what are you talking about? It's nothing like, all of our teens have probably had reactions to us trying to kind of buddy up with them in that way when they don't want to hear that from us in that moment. So then we looked at like the leadership program is really just what might work. And I loved hearing, stopping blaming, shaming. I'm just going to rattle through a lot of stuff that you said, but stopping blaming and shaming and the constant criticism. Wow, if you can actually do that and hold on to that, that's going to be game changing. Making agreements, yeah, phone-free Sunday afternoons, a few of you spoke about having the device box. I'm interested in the device box, which is kind of goes against a lot of my like my stand, but I just think we're going to be in it together. We're going to lock them up together, a bit like the smoking ban. I mean, I actually I can't help looking back on the government leadership there and going like, wow, that really saved a lot of people, a lot of poor health, money, whatever. It changed things overnight because it wasn't available to us in the same way. So I'm interested in that. Family quiet time we talked about, getting their buy-in with agreements. They've got to be agreements. They can't be just like, we've got a lot of potential as parents to just force them, subtly force them into agreements, to make agreements that aren't really agreements, to kind of just get like a yes that isn't really a yes. So it really has to be an agreement, an actual agreement where everyone's like, yeah, let's try that from now on and see how it goes, and we can review in a week or in a month. So yeah, it gives the teens, as one of you said, a great sense of control, and a sense of just being listened to, and a sense of being more equal, which is all of what we need to give them at this stage, to stop being the top dogs and the management and whatever, and start to open things up, ask them what they think. Education, yeah. I mean, the education around the social dilemma is to really just go like, wow, we're like lab rats basically with our phones. To me, it's just like the rat pushing the lever or whatever. It's no different. So some awareness for some teens, that can be really powerful. Discussions, just asking. I've had a few kind of PDFs I've put out where just asking is just one huge instruction for parents of teens to start asking more what they think. What do they think's the best solution? Like, what sort of bed, like that's what I do. And I'm amazed at the level of responsibility teens have when I ask them that. What time do they think they should go to bed? What time do they think they should get up? Or like whatever it might be, how much time do they think they should be on their phone? All of that awareness and responsibility is there for them as well. We've just got to try and get to it. Also asking them how it's going. Like, how is it for you? Do you feel like, trying to open up some of that pain around excessive phone usage maybe, and how bewildering it is, how depleting it can be. And also asking them in those discussions what they'd like to do in that kind of family 1 hour. What do they want? Getting their buy-in. Ease. I mean, what was amazing, actually, I wanted to say that every single one of the leadership points came up as one of your top 3, which was really, that was cool. I was like, oh, I thought one of them might be left out, but as it was, they're all in there. So yeah, ease is the E of leadership. You wrote resisting the urge to suggest or dictate, which I loved. Breathing. I personally have really started being much more aware of my breathing to just help my nervous system or whatever it does. I'm also a meditator. One of you wrote that. So in a very simple way, I meditate, not usually for very long, but that's the style of meditation. It's kind of all the way through the day in some ways, short moments. Just to be able to manage our emotions better, to avoid the loud shouting when we feel out of control. Love that. That's all of us, definitely. So that was great to hear. Role modeling. Yeah, the role modeling, lots of us wanting to read books. And so that the final part of this call will be just consolidating, like, how are we actually going to do this stuff? So don't worry, Kieran and others, we are going to get to that. Book reading, our own bedtimes, their bedtimes. Like one of you said, using your laptop for work meetings rather than the phone, just so there's that like work, that distinction between I'm on my laptop, I'm working, or like looking like you're just on your phone the whole time. No screens after 7 p.m. on a weekday. We've heard about that already. Having that quality time together so that we also can pursue our passions and interests, and role modeling that to our kids. Monkey see, monkey do. None of our talk is going to make half the difference, or even a tenth of the difference as our actions, like what our kids actually see us doing. However much we might want to lecture them into some sort of awareness, they're just going to be watching us. That's what they get from us, role modeling. Such a big responsibility being a parent because of that. They see everything. They learn everything straight from us. So if we're on our phone the whole time, we've got no leg to stand on. Yeah, so as parents also, us taking it seriously. Self-care, this was a massive one. So again, bedtime's part of self-care. Book reading's also part of self-care for us and for them. Diet, meditation, again, part of self-care. So measures to prevent our own exhaustion, excessive stress and overwhelm. Yeah, and some of you single parents spoke to that. Absolutely essential that we resource ourselves as best we can. It's intense parenting, whatever the model of your home looks like or household looks like. We can all turn to the sarcasm that was mentioned, all end up just being a bit dark, shouty, and just completely under-resourced to show up in our parenting if we don't take care. So self-care is serious. It really is serious. It's probably the #1 priority. It's certainly as reflected by this group, but I think probably in general, we have to. It's non-negotiable. One of you used that word, and we want to look at like what's going to be non-negotiable for this next week and beyond. That's how we're going to spend the last 15 minutes. So regulating our own nervous system, being less reactive, exercise, walking the dogs or just walking, cold water immersion, all these kinds of things. If we can actually do them and we know that that supports us to show up better in our parenting, what a gift that is. It's like killing two birds with one stone. Horrible expression. It always sounds a bit shocking to me, that, but we feel great, they feel great. One of my clients yesterday said, I noticed that when she said she noticed, having had 2 of the worst weeks for a long time as a parent, that an unhappy mum immediately created an unhappy child. So her kid also then had like the worst couple of weeks. So she could see it so clear. The way she was showing up just immediately impacted him. So that's true for all of us. Humility, yeah, does take a big step, taking a big step back from control. Yeah, and that is hard. You're right. I think that was Eugene, I remember. Yeah, taking a big step back from controlling, having that humility to go, okay. I've always framed this as a leap of faith into trust. We actually have to jump. We think we're kind of doing the right thing, fussing, like trying to manage it, trying to control the situation, trying to make everything right, trying to care for that. It's kind of a warped offshoot from just our completely pure love and devotion as a parent, as a mum. But when they're teenage, it looks a bit different. When they're teenage, we actually have to let them go. We have to step back. We have to trust that they're going to work some of this stuff out themselves, all of it really, but just slowly, we have to step into whatever level of that we can to have that humility to go, okay, I'm not the boss anymore. I'm not going to control this situation. I can't. I'm becoming extremely depleted trying to do that. Full-time job, just mothering, never mind working as well if you're working at the same time. So we have to, just like self-care, I'd say having that humility to go, okay, it's kind of up to my kids now, and I'm going to take a giant step back is necessary at the right time. Influence, yeah, finding more mentors for our kids. Young Fire Academy, also an option for you all. So yeah, book in the call. I don't want to keep saying it, but I'd just love to see all of you actually next week. So find a half hour next week where we can talk through how this training week's been and make sure that we can consider any next steps in case that could be really impactful for all of you. Last one, provision. yeah, you said just getting things set up, putting things in place. Yeah, it takes preparation actually for some of this stuff. There's quite a lot of preparation actually needed, right? If we're going to have a conversation like this about, okay, we're going to try, we've got to think it through. What is that? Sunday afternoons, like when? Maybe we think that through just with them. But, you know, I know for me, I want to play tennis with my son. I've been saying that forever. Like, I've got to actually do that. I've got to pick up the phone, book into the club, find out we're quite new in this area. So it's just like, how do I play there? How do I get him there? That's what I want him to be doing with me rather than being on a screen. I know for him, when he's playing sports and hanging out with his friends, he has no real wish to be on a screen. When he's just at home alone, he can't think of anything else to do. You know, like once he's had a whole day at school, and I don't want to paint it too extreme, but we need to be prepared. We need to be active and like, okay, what am I going to provide? What am I going to set out? I've got to actually put some time into that before we can do anything. All right, so we've got time for some reflection. I hope that's been useful though. It was so golden, the leadership framework, the way you all took it and what you all did with it, that I wanted to really consolidate that and actually just use today just to go forward with that. So the questions are, and this is, I'll play a bit of music just for some atmosphere and whatever to give us some time to just actually think. The first question, I'll just put all of these questions maybe one by one in the chat, or I'll speak them out whilst the music's playing once I've got that going. So the first one is, and you could do this from memory or you can do this from your notes, but I hope that says the right thing. What are the actions we're going to take from here? Yeah, so as bare and pithy as you can make it, like you can go, I don't want an exhaustive thing. I want things that you can just remember and go like, from here, these are my top, like the top 3 things you're going to do. It can be a repeat from the leadership framework, but like really coming out of this week, what do you want to be held accountable for? That's where we're going towards. So yeah, I'll play a bit of music and we'll have ongoing questions around how to stay accountable for our wishes here. All right, we've got at least 5 minutes. Just pause, think, take the actual value from this whole week. Of course, I hope there's more value than just this. But it doesn't matter if there isn't. Instead, one thing. Yeah, one hook, one line, one word. Like retire for a lot of people was the word for a long time. It's like, wow, shit, that's what we've got to do. And that's character. We can remember that. We can hold on to that. That helps us be accountable. That it's simple. So yeah, Gina, let go, roll, trusting more already. Taking action last night, Gina. Love to hear about that. Please share with me on the call, or I'd love to give you a spot at the end of this call if possible. Yeah, keep them coming. And pithy. Pithy means just like succinct, brief, just in case anyone doesn't know, like just like those brief words like Gina did, just a few lines. Observe. All right. Great cues. Yeah, and I suppose we do want things that we're actually going to be accountable for. So what about on the practical side, Keir? Because that's quite abstract. Like what can you actually, quite hard to hold yourself accountable to observing. What are the things, the concrete action steps? Okay, Great. Yeah, I think almost heard from everybody. Okay, great. I'll start putting in the next. Stop telling me, listen more, be more available. Okay. And this question, they're retiring, Kia. Okay, cool, brilliant. And obviously, we've spoken already before, but I would love to be on that journey with you. One way of doing it is within the Young Fire Academies. Next week and see where you're at. So the next question is when. Like, I was thinking in a way that this might be more like cold water immersions and dog walking and that kind of thing. Like, those are also actions from this week that we might want to hold ourselves accountable for, like the self-care actions. But if there is an answer to when for some of those actions, also you could put in like from Monday, cold water immersion once a week or every day, or dog walking, whatever it might be, there's a time. Or maybe it's just straight away. All of the things you've written are just straight away now. So these aren't things that need a time frame. If there's anything you want to put a time frame on, there's a statement that's really useful for supporting action, which is this. I'll put this in the chat. I'm going to, and you write this down on your journal, on a post-it. I am going to, and then whatever the action is, I'm gonna do my cold water immersion in my garden at 7 a.m. tomorrow. And what it does is it helps you visualize basically that it helps you really concretely seal that plan. So if you ever want to use that, that's a coaching classic. Use that sentence and fill in the gaps for anything. I am going to do my maths worksheets in my bedroom at 5:30 p.m. tomorrow. With the students, they're just like, right, they haven't done their maths worksheets for weeks or months or whatever. That's it. We set the plan, we set the vision. I probably have an alarm on my phone that then tells me that they should be doing that then, and I can check in with them, they can check in with me. So okay, next question is just around commitment. Yeah. Oh, perfect. And please write out those statements you like. I'm going to speak to both girls about this. Yeah. And think, Sally, also like about the place, like where's that going to be? When's that going to be? Like, when that really helps set it clear in your mind. A simple sentence. Yeah. Great, Keir. Wow. Love that. Really. If that's your one step, Keir, this week, book in that time, regular father-daughter time, to be together, to do what she wants, her choice. Love it. And if she might not know, you can start with anything. You can work it out together, and it can change. It can become a tradition and be like the same pizza night every week, or whatever it is, same movie night every week, or whatever it is. That's absolutely brilliant. Monday afternoon, prioritizing daily care. Yeah. Okay. And yeah, scale of 1 to 10 on commitment. How committed do we feel to this? Especially the concrete actions. Concrete actions are the ones that we can really put a number on. Like, how committed, Keir, are you to like making that happen this week? Spiller, daily self-care, great. How committed, 1 to 10. But the last question, one of the last questions is, how can we keep accountable to actually taking these steps? What's going to help us keep accountable? Yeah, love to hear your reflections on that. I had a suggestion for this. I'd like to hear from you all, like what's going to help you stay accountable? Yeah, okay, Sibylla, great. Well, I would love you to join the that sounds like joining the Young Fire Academy, because that's what we do. We meet every week. But show up like my students do and just go, yeah, I went for a walk this morning. Just like that. Went for a walk this morning. Booked my date with my daughter, or date's never the right word. I always say the word date. Anyway, booked my fun time with my daughter or son. We're going to do this. Like, I would love to hear. You're all going to want to hear from each other, like what you followed through on, and it will really inspire each of you to go, oh yeah, what about me? What was I going to do? I want to meet with all of you on the call. So again, another reminder we'll put the link to book a call in. If you've been too engaged with the live, then we'll put that link in to book the call. Book the call straight after this. Find a time. I don't know how many times there are there, but the sooner you get there, the more you'll find a time that suits you. Yeah. I was going to ask you which of those three things you're going to do as like non-negotiable, but I think we've ended up at that kind of point now. You really want like one thing that is non-negotiable, and then you can add things to that. If there's a few other things you're like, okay, what was on my list? I would suggest you also kind of come back to these notes, put them, write little post-its for yourself, or some way of just having it to wake up to each day where you're like, okay, don't let it all just flow on by. Basically, you want things in place where you can go, okay, I've done this week-long course with Henry. Hopefully it was awesome. It made me feel so positive and hopeful, and gave me all kinds of insights that I kind of want to action. Let's do it. I don't want it to just be a nice feeling week. Let's actually do it. So find ways to put messages up for yourself so that you can be reminded. Wake up tomorrow again. For the whole of this week, wake up and see something that reminds you. Lisa's going to hold you accountable. That's perfect. That's great. That's a great suggestion. Okay, great. So your actions for this week were 1 minute over time. Forgive me for just being a couple more minutes, but it's really just, yeah, to book that call with me, be accountable to each other in the group for this week. And I actually was going to say, create some time with your kids this weekend to do something fun. So Kia, you've rolled all of them into one, but that's perfect. That really is the goal. Spend some fun time with your kid this weekend, just to build the relationship. That will help you with everything. But yeah, otherwise, unmute and let's say goodbye. Thanks for an amazing week. Thanks for all your great participation, and look forward to hearing more from you through this week. A lot more from you. Yeah. All the best. Thanks a lot. Thanks,
Thank
Sam.
you, Henry.
Thanks,
everyone.
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 Bye, Gina.
Bye.
Thanks, Sally. Thanks, Sibylla.
You.
Thanks so much, Sam. All right. Bye, everyone.